Hello and welcome to Lost in Chronologically Lost. I am David,
I'm Matthew.
and we are going to be going through the series Lost, but in chronological order, which was made thanks to an amazing man on the internet. Now, I'm David, and I have seen Lost all the way through, both the intended order and in the chronological order. And Matthew,
I mean, I've heard of the show's reputation, never seen a thing from it until now.
right, so I think this is going to be pretty interesting just to get a perspective of someone who's not even seen it the right way around to see it in this format. Do you have any knowledge at all as to what? Just talk about anything you know about the show.
Yeah, I knew that people get trapped on an island, I think from a plane crash. That it doesn't give many answers. Maybe that's not the point, I don't know. I've heard a few things from you telling me just over the years, random details, before I realized I'd actually be watching the show. So, like, I think there's someone named Dennis or Desmond or Derek who's, like, terrible, maybe. Like, am I gonna hate him? I don't know.
Yeah, we all hate Dennis.
Okay. All right.
There's no one named Dennis.
Okay. And it might be like the island was purgatory or limbo all along, or maybe that was just a fan theory I heard of. I don't know. I don't know if it's go for that. I think you once told me there's like an evil magic mist, but it's all details like that, random things with no context. There might be time travel. Well, yeah. I mean, I've watched the first episode of it chronologically now, so I've seen what happens at the end of that, but that was basically all I knew going in off the top of my head.
Yeah, so some of those things you've already kind of at least see. I know for sure you've seen one of them
Yeah.
at least just in this first episode.
Yeah. I think two of them now, actually. Maybe, well, yeah. I think Desmond was mentioned, that's all. I don't know what he looks like. Or maybe I saw him but didn't know that was him.
Right. So
But,
let us start sort of I guess you could say this is the review reaction portion. So
Yeah.
where do we begin with this episode, Matthew?
literally chronologically, it is the chronological version, so I kind of expected...
Right,
Yeah.
but we begin with a shipwreck, a pregnant woman washing up on an island.
So, I don't know why, but I expected it to chronologically start us not on the island, like, before we get to the island, and no, we're already on the island.
Oh yeah, the island has some prehistory that we have to get
Yeah.
through. All of the other episodes, they're named for the dates they take place in, but this is so early that we have no idea that it's just titled The Beginning.
So one thing is, like, they start off speaking who knows what language, and I mean...
Well, I'll tell you, the language they were speaking was Latin, so I think from that, we can assume these were at least in the Roman society.
Yeah, see, when the older woman, she started talking in Latin in a really American accent, I was like, oh, that's weird. And then it just sort of gradually changed to English. And what I figured out near the end of the episode was that, oh, that was probably just for the benefit of the viewers. They translated it. But at the start, I was wondering, like, is this some weird magical thing where their words themselves are progressing through time as they speak? I don't know. I didn't know what to expect.
No, that's just for us, the viewers.
Yeah.
I will say, Lost has a very multicultural cast, and basically, if the cast themselves can speak the native language the characters are supposed to, they'll keep it. But if they can't, they just hand wave it. It's like, oh, it's just in English for the viewer.
Yeah.
So obviously, no one's a native Latin speaker, so they're switching that up.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we begin with this pregnant woman who's clearly been shipwrecked, getting rescued by this other woman. And I have to say, did you expect what happened in the first
I
2
did
minutes?
not. So first I want to say there was a line of dialogue where the older woman said, "Every question I answer will lead to another question." And from the show's reputation, if that is not a way to set us off on what this journey will be.
Yeah, that was basically the writers telling us, because I'll tell you, most of this episode is the third to last episode of the entire series.
Yeah, I
that the
I
entire
was I was
first 40
wondering a lot of it. I think some of the beginning I thought maybe it was cut from different episodes, but then I was thinking most of this feels like it's just one solid episode. It
Yeah,
feels
it was
all
most of it is
connected.
just one long episode.
Yeah. But so yeah, I did not see her killing the pregnant woman coming. I By the end I gathered what her motive was, but at first I was just like, is there some kind of rule that she's following that many people are allowed to live on the island at once, or is it like, oh, I mean my first assumption was she is some lady who always wanted to be a mother before she got trapped on this island. She never got the opportunity. And now that she has these babies here, she's just gonna kill their other mother so she can be the mother. That was my guess.
Honestly, that's a pretty accurate read. Obviously, we don't really learn much more about this character other than what we've just seen. But it seems like both that she wanted someone who she would ultimately pass on her title to,
Yeah.
and she did want to be a mother. Clearly, she just stole these kids right from this
Yeah.
woman and murdered her to get them.
I think the way I took it from stuff later in the episode was she didn't think that the pregnant woman was someone she could trust for, like knowing about the golden pond thing. She only believed she could trust someone she raised to agree with her and everything.
I would say someone that she raised and that she heavily manipulated, as
Oh, yeah.
we'll see through this episode.
Oh yeah.
So then it time skips a bit to when they're
Yeah.
maybe like 12, 13, 14.
Oh yeah, and one of those things that's nice about it being chronological is that if this was like the original show as it was designed, or any show, I would see that time skip and I would be like, are these supposed to be the same kids, or is this just something else that's happening? But because it's chronological, I kind of know nothing's in between this. Like,
Yeah. So, yeah. So we come across these, the two boys who are on a hunt. We have the blonde boy Jacob, and the black-haired boy who we never learned his name because his mother Claudia only picked one name.
I was wondering. Oh, I didn't realize she only picked one name. I just kind of thought they were just never mentioning it. I guess that makes sense. I didn't notice, like, maybe she didn't feel like it was her place to name the other one. Maybe she just didn't care about names. I don't know.
He could have a name, and they just edit around it, and they just never show them saying it. But yeah, it's a thing. When they're born, the mother only picked one name. She didn't have any idea for a second name. So
Yeah.
So
Should have
the black-haired
waited
boy-
until she thought. I was thinking she should have waited for her to name the other one before killing her. It would save her a lot of trouble of being like, "Hey, come here, Jacob, and you."
Yeah, exactly. So the black-haired boy, or sort of, he'll become known as the Man in Black, but I guess right now he's the Boy in Black. He finds a game washed up on the beach, and this is the game of Sonnet, which is extremely old.
I was not familiar with that. If I knew what that was, I bet that would have been a hint to me at how long ago this took place.
Yeah, I believe Sonnet is from Egyptian times. I'm not sure when in Egypt it was from, but it's quite long ago. I believe it's the first game that people have discovered, at least through archaeology.
Oh, wow.
So he finds it washed up on the beach, and eventually it leaks out that first Jacob's not a good liar, and the mother comes and says that she put the game on the beach. And I don't know if we're meant to take this as true, or if we're just meant to take this as her lying about there being anything else across the sea.
I took it as true because I figured I was taking that as, oh, she's controlling, she's everything, and now that you pointed out, I'm like, oh yeah, no, she totally would just lie and say it was her.
Yeah, but it could be her, but it could not be her. I'm leaning more towards the side that it's not.
Yeah. I mean, either way, she is being very manipulative.
Right. So they also confront her about the fact that they've seen now other people on the island. So she decides to take them to this magical, glowing place.
And one of those things I want to mention that was interesting to experience, like, I don't know if it was the same if you watched this as one of the last episodes of the show, but for me, like, with this being the very first thing I see, I had no idea what to expect would be on this island, so the beginning kind of just primed me to think, okay, this is an island with one person on it. And then suddenly there's another person that suddenly just, like, I had no idea, I didn't know if I should even expect there to be other people, and then suddenly there were. And I mean, later it just makes sense they're from the shipwreck, but, that was actually, like, a significant surprise to me.
Yes, well, as you've said, you know that the series is about people who crash on a plane on the island. So
like, this
it's
is obviously
people
before
kind of
that.
crashing boats or planes and landing up on this island isn't, it's not a one-off occurrence. It has happened before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And anyways, the mother says to the two boys that she's made it so that they can never hurt each other, which is some weird wording because in about 10 minutes we'll see them beat the crap out of each other. But it just means that they can't kill each other, is what it's saying, which is unique. Do you have any thoughts on that, or?
That was not a detail I really noticed. I think I assumed at the time she was just raising them to be non-violent or whatever, but if that means something, I don't really know. I mean, later parts of the episode maybe made me think maybe there was something they could give each other to make them immortal. I don't know if that's where it's going, but I mean,
well, no,
I kind of
as
assumed...
they say near the end of the episode, the Man in Black later on, he will say, you can't kill me. She made it that way, and he'll say, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to do something worse, because he knows he can't kill him.
Oh, see, I didn't take that as him doing that because of, like, him knowing that he couldn't kill him otherwise. I just took that as he was so mad at him that, like, he heard her say that going into the golden place thing was worse than death, and he was...
I don't know if it's ever officially named, but we refer to that as the heart of the island.
Alright. So, he heard his fake mom say, the heart of the island was worse than death, and I figured he was so mad at his brother that he decided he wanted to give him something worse than death. And I mean, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Maybe it was that he also couldn't have just killed him. He only could have done that.
Yeah, no, I will confirm. The mother has made it so that they cannot kill each other. It's just island person magic. They can't kill each other.
Huh. Like, they can die but not kill each other personally?
Yes, I will sort of explain more as it goes on.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So anyway, we go back to when there's just the boy in black and little Jacob, and they're playing Sonnet, and Jacob makes a move, and the boy in black says, no, you can't do that, it's against the rules. And Jacob kind of gets mad about that, and then the boy in black says, well, you know what, one day you can have your own game, and then you can decide the rules. Which I'm just going to point out, maybe that's pretty important.
I don't... That wasn't even a scene I thought to take notes on. I think I really missed that moment, but yeah, that... I'm sure... I don't know how literal it will be, but I'm sure later events in the show that I'm sure Jacob will have a hand in facilitating will be a game in some form, even if just kind of metaphorically, and I'm sure that, yeah, that seems like a... Well, not foreshadowing, because...
It's foreshadowing if you watch it this way.
Yeah. That reminds me of something I wanted to mention. I like to look at the themes of stuff. I like to just, I find them interesting. And some things, the themes are just things you can see in the character arcs and the events. Some things I feel like the way themes are implied has to do with the structure of the story, what it shows you and when. And I'm not getting that the way it was intended, so there might be things I miss, and there might be themes that feel entirely different just because of the order I'm seeing it in. I mean, for instance, the whole I'm sure Jacob is going to end up being very important, and we'll see more of him. And the whole idea of, like, his story and how that feels to me is going to be affected by how, like, I saw where he came from before seeing what he does, instead of seeing where he came from being the answer that I finally get. I might be more sympathetic to him later, who knows?
Yes, exactly. That's actually one of the reasons I prefer Chronologically, and there are going to be later characters. I will say I have one specific example in mind where the sort of character arcs and story actually makes a lot better sense when you see it in a chronological fashion than in the split up between seasons cut up fashion. So,
I mean, some things, on the other, as we see at the end of the episode, some things I think definitely will make less sense to me, at least for the time being.
Oh, absolutely. That is the one thing.
We'll get to that later, though.
So,
we'll
anyways,
get to that later.
After their game of Sonnet, the boy in black, he sees
one thing. Actually, before we get to that, one thing I wanted to talk about, just of what I was thinking at this point of the episode, is kind of, I knew one of them was gonna. I figured this was almost certainly a backstory for someone who would be like the mysterious person on the island in the main plot of the show, and I figured, which one is it gonna be? In retrospect,
right,
the one who actually had a name, I should have known, but for a lot of this, I was really going back and forth. On the one hand, the man in black, he was the one with more of a relationship being fleshed out. We were seeing his story. Then on the other hand, I started to think, okay, he's the one who sort of abandons his mother, and then Jacob is the one who sticks by him. And I think, yeah, that's what ended up happening. But it was interesting for me to, like, wonder which one of these guys is the one who's gonna, live on. Because, again, it wasn't a backstory, so I had that kind of tension that I think people watching this as a flashback wouldn't have felt.
Exactly, and there's even the point earlier in the episode where the mother says to the boy in black, Jacob's not like you, and that the boy in black is special.
Yeah.
So it kind of puts more importance on the one who ends up not taking the reins of this island. So anyways, the boy in black, he sees a vision of his mother, Claudia, and he tells him...
Seeing dead people is... I don't know if this would have felt more set up if it was a flashback, but I know that the island has mystical things happening, so I could roll with it.
Yeah, we've already seen a giant glowing thing in the island. So yeah, on the island, if you die on the island, you can become a ghost.
That is very convenient. I mean,
that's just
not like.
Yes, I will say they don't actually use it that much, but when they do use it,
I'm not even saying plot convenient. I just think nice to know that having an afterlife is an option, because you usually don't get to know that. Like, good for her. I'm happy for for their real mom, that she got to have this when she got killed like that at the very start.
Right, and she tells the boy in black that woman's not your real mother, and you actually come from a place across the sea, and that it really gets to him. He really believes it, and he figures that no, he wants to go home, which, I think there's an interesting take, because he always says, I need to go off this island, I need to go home, when he's never been there. He was born on this island,
right?
But he just feels like he just has this compulsion to leave, which I find very interesting. And eventually he tries to get Jacob to leave as well, and the two come to blows, and he decides to leave. He's going to go live with the rest of the shipwrecked people.
Right.
And then we flash forward to when the two boys are now in their 40s. So they are well-grown adults.
And now they're being played by better actors, which is nice.
Yes.
and they do... I do like how these actors, it wasn't just like going from kids who, child actors, that's how it is, not performing that great and talking kind of awkwardly, to these adults who also, especially Jacob, feel like they talk kind of awkwardly, but in a more intentional way, where Jacob does feel like somebody raised in a way without that much socialization. I thought like the acting was pretty good for capturing that.
Exactly, yes. And it should be noted that from their birth to in their 40s, their fake mother looks exactly the same.
Oh yeah, I noticed.
Yeah, so
I was wondering if that was just, TV production, what can you do?
That is not just TV production.
As it went on later, I started to think, oh, she's maybe just not supposed to be aging. One of those things I think is like, okay, this could be a really long time before the main plot, and like Jacob feels like he's being set up to be. I mean, the impression I kind of got was during the main plot, Jacob will be that mysterious guy who knows things and interferes with them but doesn't tell them anything. I'm like, okay, if he has to be there for that, then like, no, obviously
Then
he
how's he gonna look?
yeah, he has to not age in some form too. Therefore, maybe that's also happening with his fake mom.
Right. So it flashes forward to when they're 40 years old, and they are again playing a game of Sonnet, and they show that there's like this well, and the man in black he throws a knife and it gets sucked right into it. It has extremely strong magnetism.
That was one of those things that made me start to realize just how far in the past this might be. Like, he does not know what magnets are, and I think
it's more than just magnets. That is an extreme reaction to a thrown knife being then sucked straight into the edge of this well.
That's true.
I whistle. Yeah, the electromagnetism. They kind of use it for a lot of things in this show, but this is the first sort of instance where it's like, there's some weird things going on with this island, more than just the.
I kind of figured if the magnets are related to the heart, and I don't know if they are, they might be, they might not, but I was thinking the heart is like a bunch of souls and stuff, then like, I don't know, I found it funny, like, souls and magnets are the same things. How do magnets work, you know?
Yeah, well, it's hard to say what this golden glow is, because the fake mother says, you know, a little piece of it is in every man, but they always want more, so that's why you have to protect it.
I took that as souls, but I mean, who knows if she was even telling the truth.
It could be souls, it could just be like goodness or just something. It's hard to say. This is as much of an answer as we're going to get. Later, the mother comes to visit the man in black, and he has this wheel underground near the well, and he's like, look, this is attached sort of to the heart or the light or whatever it is, and I'm going to attach this wheel to it, and I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to get out of here. And she goes, how do you know that's going to work? And he goes, because I'm special. And that is the explanation we get for how turning a wheel on this wall is going to teleport you.
Yeah, I definitely kind of wondered, like, how do you know? This doesn't seem based off experiment. I mean, he says some of the townspeople are very smart people, but like, I mean, looking at it from just a modern scientific perspective, I would think you would have to have, how are you harnessing this just by turning a wheel? Wouldn't you have to like extract it, go through some processes? I don't know, something. And I mean, they wouldn't know that, but how would it work without that? I mean, it is magic in some form, so I guess it doesn't need that. But I feel like he is going through these big assumptions when he thinks that's all it'll take to do something with it.
Yeah, it is assumptions when you see it like that, but he knows it. He knows that's what's going to happen. Yeah. He just somehow. Another thing that I should mention is that even though the man in black has gone to live among these people, he's actually come away with the takeaway that no, people are trash. And they're really bad. And Jacob, he thinks that they're good.
I like that. Okay. I like that you would think that the one with, you know, their crazy fake mom would be the one that hates humans, but no. And I have to wonder, like, are they actually bad humans? Are they just normal humans that are at worst in a bad situation? And, you know, is he realizing just how bad humans are, or is he actually affected by how he was raised and just wasn't ready for how normal humans act? And I mean, we don't know, and I think that, you know, having that ambiguity makes it more interesting.
Oh, absolutely. So after seeing this whole wheel set up, the mother knocks out the man in black. Did you see that?
I was hoping she would stab him. I was hoping she was moving in close, and I was like, oh, she's gonna grab his knife from his hip.
That's whenever I watch the scene, I always think, I'm like, right, the knife, and then nope, she just shoves him against the rocks.
I mean, the knife does come back, so yeah, but
and he
I mean, I was
to
thinking she would try to kill him.
Right, I think she does still care about him. She doesn't want to kill him. She can't stand the thought of him leaving.
Yeah. Although I'm kind of wondering, is it about him leaving, or is it just about the fact that she tries to protect the heart. Like, and even him interfering with the heart is not acceptable. I don't know. I'm not really sure.
I think it could. I think it's really just about him leaving, because as you've seen at the end of the episode, that wheel still gets put there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's really just about him leaving. And so he wakes up to just find that whole town, I guess you could say, just completely murdered.
And I do have to wonder, did she do this? I mean, she seems to not age. Maybe she's just good at surviving. But, I mean, I'm sure burning it down helped her with that. But, wow, did she just take them out all on her own?
I have to imagine, and she's immortal, so I guess she just wouldn't die. But,
Yeah, just
yeah,
persistence, not power.
right. So then she goes and she takes Jacob to sort of the heart of the island again, and she says, I'm gonna transfer my power to you. So she says, I'm going to transfer my power to you. And he's like, why do you have to do it? And she's like, it was always supposed to be you. And he says, no, it wasn't. You wanted it to be my brother.
Oh. Yeah, I felt pretty bad for him here, because he knew exactly what was going on there.
Yeah, she saw that there was no hope for his brother, and is like, okay, it has to be Jacob. Let's do it. So this is how he basically becomes immortal, so he can be played by the same actor.
Yeah, they drank something. Is that going to be answered? I don't know if it's important. I mean, maybe it doesn't need to be answered, because I feel like a drink they have that makes you immortal, that's like a reasonable enough thing that I can just accept.
This is one of the few things where there will actually be something coming up. It'll be much later, but it'll come up. Because I had the same thought. I'm like, don't you have a limited amount of that wine? Like, that seems like this couldn't go on forever, right? But they actually, there's more of an explanation to that.
What if it's her blood? I mean, just as a random guess. Okay.
No, that was just wine. It was just wine. Yeah.
That made me think when we got to that point that when she told them as kids, you won't have to worry about death. Oh, she meant that. I thought that was just part of her sheltering them, not telling them how the world really works, telling them there was nothing about the outside the island. No, she was actually serious about that.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so I think that they could have died if they had, say, fallen off a cliff or something. But, now Jacob can't die. He's immortal, just like the mom. But that means that now the mom is not immortal anymore. So when the man in black shows up wanting some revenge, right, he gets it.
And, when she comes back to her camp and she sees it's ransacked, I'm just like, check behind you. You know what's gonna happen. And I'm just like, check behind you, and she doesn't check behind her.
I think she really did know.
She
really did know what was gonna happen, which is why she was.
As the viewer, I knew she couldn't have, but I mean, it makes sense for her character to not think he would do that. But still, in that situation.
Right. So he kills his fake mother, and this, of course, enrages Jacob.
And then Jacob starts punching him parallel to when they're kids. He's beating him up. I thought the man in black looked tougher, but I don't know. Jacob just has that bloodlust.
Kind of caught by surprise, and he was still, after he had just killed his mom, he was still kind of sad about it, and Jacob was just full rage. So he got the jump on him there, and drags him to the heart of the island and throws him in, and out pops a black smoke monster.
Like I said before, I thought that this would be like he just hated him. He wanted to do worse than killing him. But maybe that was the only thing he could do, since he couldn't kill him.
Yeah, that's how it is. They couldn't kill each other.
Yeah, you told me before. Just one of those random things I've heard about the. One of the random things I've heard about the show is just there's a black mist monster, and I guess I know where that came from now. Whereas most people would, I guess.
That guy.
Yeah. Or like his soul or something, because we see his body. I didn't expect to see his body.
Yeah, he is out of his body now. He's just that sort of smoke monster thing, which, we'll see more of. Then flash forward however many years, we don't know, to a completely different scene.
Before we get to that, let's just talk about Jacob's story before we get to that.
Okay.
Because that was a solid beginning for me. That, I expected this show in chronological order to start me with like flashbacks for like some of the people who are on the island. Like, someone, to understand his character, there would be some flashback of him, before he got to the island, what his life was like. And I was figuring I'd get to see all of that for everybody before they got on the plane. That's what I expected. I didn't expect this, but it was good. I feel like just on its own, it was a solid piece of like, small scale speculative fiction kind of things where, just two brothers, their lives, their relationships, how their paths diverge, and, how they eventually have their conflict. I thought that just worked on its own, outside of it needing to be answers or set up for later things. It was, a solid story I could get invested in.
Oh, same. I believe that this episode really does stand on its own as a thing, it's interesting because when it came out, a lot of people loved it and a lot of people hated it because it did answer kind of a lot of questions, but the answers were magic. So, it wasn't...
Yeah. And see, I'm just starting this, like, because it's my first impression. I'm like, okay, this is a story with magic. I can go with that.
Exactly, and a lot of the sort of complaints with Lost is that, either they didn't answer something or the answers weren't good, because it kind of had been leading people to believe that there would be some, like, real definitive answer. But when you just start out with, there's magic, I think the show is actually a lot better, because you know exactly what you're getting into.
Mm-hmm. But so, all of that worked. It was a solid story, and still, even with that beginning I didn't expect, I expected, Chronological Lost to be, backstories first. I guess that when I vaguely remembered hearing there might have been time travel in the show, there was this kind of time travel, so now I just get all these characters in the middle of their arcs. I have no idea how far through the story, and I don't know if I...
Well, you get one character at the end of her arc, because one of them shows up and dies in, 30 seconds,
I'm like,
so that's your first impression of her.
Maybe in dozens of episodes, the fact that this happened will suddenly make me sad.
I will say, don't worry about that, because they have a better scene with her near the end that actually feels like a better send-off for her. Okay. I think it still works.
I mean, is it just... Now that you say that, I'm just thinking, is that her ghost? I mean...
Oh, no, there's no... that ghost thing, I'm just saying, you'll see, basically her arc sort of before this time travel. It ends in a good place.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean... Just to go through, like, the events before I can even talk about how this was kind of an overwhelming thing to see all at once. We get someone bald, I think his name ends up being John, falling in the well.
Yeah, his name is John Locke. Most people do refer to him just as his last name Locke.
Oh, okay.
Just to say, yeah.
So, an Asian guy blinking, another Asian guy telling, I think, James to stop pulling a rope. Was that rope the time machine? I don't know. And, and this actress, she was in The Expanse playing Anna in that show, and she was really good, the blonde woman, so I'm excited for her.
Oh, Juliet, yeah, she's a fan favorite. People love her on Lost.
That's great, yeah.
Oh, well, speaking of actors, I should say, it's a kind of a funny thing with Jacob, because as you saw near the end, he kind of became, Island Jesus. But at the same time, the show Supernatural was airing, he was on there, and he was playing Satan.
Oh,
so he was. He was
playing
kind of two opposite roles.
I don't know if I can see him as Satan.
It worked, I'd say. But then again, I haven't rewatched in many years, so. Yeah, we get So I'll say their names for you. We have Sawyer pulling on the rope. We have the two Asian guys, the Korean one, played by Daniel Dae Kim. No, not Daniel Dae Kim. Yes, Daniel Dae Kim.
Okay.
Who is the sort of Korean man named Jin. We have the other Asian guy who I forgot he was in this scene, but clearly he must have been, whose name is Miles, and I don't remember the actor's name other than that he was in Saw 1. We have Juliet, who you said you knew from The Expanse.
Yeah, she's great in that, and she has likable charisma, like just as an actress. So, and I mean, if she's also in terms of the writing a fan favorite, that's good news.
Yeah. Then over we have Charlotte dying as her first scene. I have no idea who this actress is or anything else she's been in. And
this did all make me wonder, like, did they all, like, how were they all sent back in time? The group of 4 of them, it looked like they were doing something, like, with a time machine. Their reaction was kind of implying that...
I'll say the group
they knew
sort of group of 4 and the 2 others, they traveled together, so...
Okay, then I kind of wondered how they got separated, and because it's chronological,
they're not that far apart. They're maybe like 3 meters apart. They're not that far apart. I'll just say.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense. I was just wondering, like, because like it's chronological. I'm not going to see anything before this, but all right. And I guess I wonder how Locke got in there, and I'm sure it'll eventually make sense. But I mean, this already just makes me think, like, also the fact that they see some giant statue is like, that's what kind of hit me with, this is after the Jacob stuff, so then how long ago was the Jacob stuff then? That's what started making that click for me.
Well, the statue, I'll say this, it's a statue of Taweret. I believe Taweret was an Egyptian god of fertility.
I love fertility.
Yeah. So I think we can surmise that maybe some Egyptians crashed here at some point and built this statue. And for them seeing the statue is the only thing that really places this section right here at the very beginning, because otherwise you kind of could have put it
it's
anywhere.
It's just the island, but not their time.
Yeah, the island after Jacob because there's a statue, but before anything else because there's a giant statue.
And so this just kind of makes me think, well, I don't know these characters, I don't know anything that was going on, but I think, in the next episode, I'll probably be able to follow their goal. Like, I don't know if their goal is just going to be as simple as back to the future, or if, like, they came back with some purpose, but whatever that purpose is, I feel like the general plot setup, that's something I'll be able to make sense of, it's people stuck out of time. But then the Locke stuff...
The important sort of scene here, yes, is with Locke. And he has fallen down into this cave area, which we know sort of was probably caved out by the man in black. And he's broken his leg, very painful. I will say this actor, I have never seen him in anything else, but I believe he won Emmys for his role in Lost, and I would say he's probably either the best or the second best actor in this whole show. He absolutely kills it as John Locke. Terry O'Quinn is his name.
All right, I'm excited to see more of him then. I mean, just...
Yes, and so he meets a man down in this cave, this old man
and
who
again,
you don't know.
One of these things going on is, like, this is chronological. I might see more of this guy in the future, but I'm not going to get to know what he was doing before this, how he got here, because there's never going to be a flashback to right before what I'm seeing. At least not...
Right. It will make sense, though. It'll make sense for you.
I'm sure it will, but it's... At the moment, it's not giving me anything to work with. It's just... I just have to wonder with basically no ideas, which is, not a bad feeling. I enjoy the mystery.
Right. So he tells John that there's a wheel that slipped off its axis, and that you just need to give it a push, and it'll set right back in place. And he also says that Ben turned the wheel, but that he was told he had to do it, that Locke had to do it, and Locke didn't do it in the first place, which Maybe you can surmise. Maybe that's why they're in this kind of situation.
I don't know.
Yes, it was all very fast, I will say.
I mean, I took notes. I went back and rewatched bits of dialogue. I still can't really make sense of it all. And I mean, that's okay, but see, it's just kind of not what I expected to be getting into at the end of the first episode of Chronologically Lost.
Oh, absolutely. This scene it's absolutely whack if you're just seeing this after the Jacob stuff. It is crazy, and you're not going to be able to make sense of it.
I mean, what really got me was him being told he needed to leave the island and get the people who left and bring them back. And that
so
really
clearly some shit has gone down.
That really makes me wonder, because him in the past leaving the island, getting people that come to the island, makes me think, oh, what if him manipulating people was the entire reason a lot of the cast got on the plane and got stuck on the island in the first place, because he was told to do that in the past. But no, he has to take people back. But if he takes people back in the past, then they would come back to the island before they got on the island in the first place. I'm sure there's a logic to it that makes sense, but I don't have the information, so the way I'm thinking about it seems contradictory. And that's not even getting into the woman in L.A.
Right, the woman in L.A., Eloise Hawking. Well, you've said a lot of very interesting things that I will not comment on for spoilers' sake. And, well, we'll just cap off with the way this episode ends is, well, first Locke asks, can you help me up? And the man says no.
Yeah,
and walks away.
That's pretty sadistic. Like, he was stabbed in the leg, and he was making him walk. What the fuck?
Well, he wasn't stabbed in the leg. It was he had fallen down.
It was like
through the
stabbed.
But yeah,
stabbed.
The bone
stabbed in
was
the
out
sense.
of his leg.
Oh, there was the bone. Oh, I thought it was a dark scene. I thought it was like a wooden spear or something stuck in his leg.
Oh no! That he had fallen down and his leg had severely broken.
That's even worse. He made him walk?
Yeah. wouldn't give him a hand up. And as he's turning this wheel that he was told to turn, sort of that man says, when you get to LA, say hi to my son for me. And he says, what? Who is your son? And I imagine this is just, like, you have no idea.
I don't.
I'm guessing.
No.
Right.
When you watched this in, the proper order, were you supposed to have any idea?
Oh, when you watch this in the proper order, you know exactly who he's talking about, and it's like a wild scene.
Well, it'll be wild.
Yeah,
it'll be wild for me eventually.
I believe this was from season 5, and there's 6 seasons total. So,
damn.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So, we've already pretty much covered the Jacob stuff, but where do you see this going, or what do you want to see happen later?
Well, so later or next episode?
Next episode or 100 episodes, whatever.
Because, I know enough about the show that I know eventually we're going to get to a point of, just a mostly continuous plot of people stuck on an island, and, I know to expect that later, and I'm sure it'll be fun. At the moment, next episode, I like plot lines where people, they get stuck in somewhere where they shouldn't be, and they have to figure out how to get back. I especially like those when it's time travel. I know I'm a big Back to the Future fan. I know you aren't, but, that kind of just the plot concept.
I'm not, okay, this isn't like saying I don't like the movie. I've just never seen it.
Okay. You told me you started it and stopped watching it because you didn't find it interesting.
Whoa, what? No. You're thinking of a different movie, man.
All right.
I've never seen Back to the Future.
Okay, if you say so.
I'm open to seeing it.
Okay. All right. If you say so. Anyway, I like that kind of plot line. I enjoy the stuck someplace. So I think, even though I don't know these characters or what the arc is, or even really what the stakes are of what them getting back or what they went to the past to do would be, I think if we get just a solid chunk of plot line that's stuck in the past, what are we going to do? I think I will enjoy that. So I kind of hope we get that. I guess if...
I think, I don't believe that starts next episode, but it will at some point, and I think you're really going to like it.
I guess then the other thing is Locke going... will I get to see him go to LA? I don't know if that's the kind of thing that should be in the scope of the show, because just from, the cultural perception of the show Lost, that's the only things I knew about it, I would expect it to be the kind of show that would really confine itself to its own setting of the island, other than flashbacks. So I wouldn't expect it to just show a character going to LA in the past. But, I was thinking, oh, he's in the past. I mean, he has to be in an era where that guy's son exists. Because, no, he's in the past. This is chronological. So he's at when there was an Egyptian statue there, at least. But then when he leaves the island, will he still be in the past? Okay, now I didn't even think of that when I was taking notes on the show. So I have...
Yeah, there's a lot to think about.
I have no idea if next episode I'll see him go... I mean, I guess I shouldn't see him go to LA, because if I get the time travel plot of them stuck in the past, shouldn't the LA stuff be way after that?
Well, I believe that the next episode, I will just say, I imagine you're at least somewhat excited for it, or at least you're interested.
Yeah, I think at this point I can safely tell you, yeah, I'm interested. This is...
Right. Well, I'll say the title for the next episode is, I believe it's from sometime in the 1800s to 1953. So
okay.
That's the time span we're going to be covering.
Well, but then, I mean, you said that the stuck in the past plot is not next episode. I mean, but then that means that it would be after 1953, but what we just saw is before 18. Maybe they just use the time machine again and they get stuck in a different part of the past. I don't know what predictions I can make at this point. I think maybe the 18...
Yeah, they're gonna get stuck in the past, but not this past.
Okay, the 1800s... The 1800s will be like more... Well, I guess not really. The 1800s are a bit too early for character backstories of people who get stuck on the island, but maybe some more past events on the island that end up being important. Like maybe we see other expeditions that ended up there, or just... I don't know. And I guess maybe as we get to closer to 1953, that could kind of be the space where we could see real backstories for those who end up on the island. I mean, that could be a time frame where we could see Locke go to LA. That could also maybe, or that could be a time frame where we see Locke's that could be a time frame where we see Locke's childhood, if he's an important enough character for us to see his childhood and his backstory, or other characters.
I will say, if someone ends up on the island, there's a good chance you'll see their backstory.
Yeah, I
think it's very rare to not see one.
I mean, I'm sure there's characters I haven't met who could get backstories even. And that'll be interesting too. I mean, now there's a solid chunk of the cast I've met where when I see their backstory, I'll think, oh, it's them. But now there's also going to be, I'm sure, some people where the backstory will be the first thing I see of them, and that'll be interesting.
It will be interesting. But I think we're about done here. So
All
for
right.
Lost and Chronologically Lost, I'm David.
I'm Matthew.
And we hope that you'll tune in again next time.
Yeah.